What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/EntitledParents. Alright, this story's called Homophobic Mom is Entitled to My Charity. Hey, it's me, the Chick-fil-A guy from the other day. I'm gonna be going on a class trip in a few days, so I thought I'd give y'all one more story before I head out. I'll pop a link to the other post in the comments if you want to read. Usual abbreviations apply. There's me. Hey, it's your boy. Guy 1. Guy 2? Entitled Mother. 1, guess who this is. Kid 1. Entitled Mother's son. Kid 2. Entitled Mother's daughter. Anyway, this happened a few weeks back, after I got off the recovery from my surgery and came back to work. I was working a 4 to 9:30 shift on Friday in the dining room, which meant I got a half-hour break since I was working 5.5 hours, which is company policy. So I took my break around 7:15 or so because it was really slow that night, especially for a Friday. There was 4 or 5 tables occupied, but I wasn't the only one in the dining room that night, so I was good to go on break. I ordered my employee meal and got my phone and wallet from the little employee cubbies we have up front and sat down in the back, near the bathrooms. Some people in front of house were cleaning the floors on the other side, near the playground, so I wanted to stay out of their way. As a result, all the other groups of people were on that side as well. I took a free table and just texted for a little while as my food came out. While this was going on, 2 guys, about my age, maybe a little older, walked in and ordered before sitting down a few tables away from me, 1 table away from the entitled mother. I didn't think much of it until I saw the 2 guys walk by me holding hands. Now, if you read my last post, you probably noted the part where I said that I was bi. So seeing those guys go and sit down made me smile. I guess to me it was nice to see that everyone's got someone out there for them, and these guys had found that someone. Anyway, my order came out, and I had skipped lunch that day, so I started devouring that sandwich in parfait. While I was picking one of the tomatoes out of my sandwich, I heard a little bit of an argument break out behind me. Entitled Mother had noticed the boys holding hands and had gone over to their table. I didn't look over, but I kinda tuned into the conversation, mostly because I was curious. "Excuse me, can you not hold hands, please? It's making my daughter uncomfortable." "And why's that?" "Because you're both males." "You've got a smart daughter, huh?" Cue childish internal laughing from me. "Pardon me?" "Lady, Guy 1 and I come in here pretty often and they never have a problem with us. Leave us alone if you don't want to deal with us." Entitled Mother sounded pretty ticked off about that. She started to yell at the 2 guys, who looked pretty uncomfortable. She went on for a minute or 2 about how homosexuality is a sin, and I don't want my children exposed to your disease. I didn't really want this lady to cause a scene, and I'm not really comfortable in a homophobic environment myself. So I stood up, put my name tag back on, and walked over to Guy 1 and Guy 2's table. "Is there a problem here?" "It's none of your business." "Actually, you're in my place of employment and you're causing a scene, so it is my business, ma'am." "Don't talk back to me! Isn't this supposed to be a Christian restaurant? Why aren't you throwing those 2 out?" "Because they ordered food and they're our valued guests. Miss, I'm gonna have to ask you to please go back to your seat and stop disturbing these gentlemen." Guys 1 and 2 seemed pretty happy someone had taken their side. Entitled Mother was not, but gave me a scowl and went back to her seat. I smiled at Guy 1 and Guy 2, gave a little pleasure to be of help, nod, and went back and finished my meal right as theirs came out. Some time passed and I was back on the clock. Both Entitled Mother and Guy 1 and Guy 2 were still there. Guy 1 and Guy 2 were still eating, and Kid 1 and Kid 2 were in the play area. Entitled Mother was still at her table. Now, part of my job in the dining room is doing table touches, which just means checking in with all the guests and asking them if they need anything. I checked with a few other tables who were all good. Entitled Mother asked me for a sweet tea refill, which I got for her, and Guy 1 unknowingly made my day by asking for some pepper for his mac and cheese. I went and got the giant functional pepper shaker that we have, walked over and said, Say when. Guy 1 and Guy 2 laughed their asses off at this, and so did a couple of older folks at another table. It put me in a really good mood. So when Guy 2 asked if it was alright if he could take some sauces home, I decided to be nice and surprise these guys. I figured, what the hell, these guys are nice, they got yelled at by a crazy lady, and they made my day. Might as well make theirs in return. So I went to the kitchen and asked a friend in the kitchen if he could get a couple cookies ready for me real quick, and he did since he wasn't planning to use his employee meal that night anyway. I put the sauces in a paper takeout bag with the cookies and took it out to their table, where we had the obligatory "thanks a lot, man," and "my pleasure" interaction. I walked away after that to wipe tables, but kept an eye on their faces while they opened the bag. I don't know if they know it was me or not, but they looked really happy and it felt good. Guy 1 and Guy 2 left at that point, so I told them to have a good night as I passed by them to clean their table off. They told me good night and went off and hopefully did have a very good night. As I was cleaning the table, Entitled Mother came over to me and tapped my arm. I looked over, finished wiping the table, and stood up. "Do you need any help?"
Yes, I'd like you to get me 3 cookies, please.
"Oh, sorry ma'am, we can't do transactions here in the dining room. You'll have to either wait in line or place a mobile order." Entitled Mother cut me off before I could finish the word order.
Well, you brought cookies to those 2, so why not me?
"Those cookies were paid for, ma'am."
Then pay for mine the same way.
At this point, Kid 1 and Kid 2 come running back from the play area and started begging their mother for dessert.
See, are you really gonna say no to my children?
"No, ma'am, I'm going to say no to you." At this point, I picked up the bucket of sanitizer wipes I was using. "If you want a cookie, then you can buy them yourself. Is there anything else I can help you with?" Entitled Mother started hollering at me about how I was a disgraceful employee and I should be fired for what poor service I had given her. At this point, I was saved by the most unlikely of heroes. The old dude from earlier who had laughed at the pepper shaker walked by and told the Entitled Mother to, and I quote,
"Shove a sock in it so far deep that it covers the pole in your ass."
He then told me I was doing a good job, got a few napkins, and went back to his seat with his wife. It took everything I had to not start laughing my ass off, but I managed to squeeze out a "thank you, sir" to the older guy and "have a good night, ma'am" to the Entitled Mother before going back to the kitchen and laughing for a solid 30 seconds. That's pretty much the end of the story. Entitled Mother wound up buying a 6-pack of cookies anyway. I made sure the older guy had everything he needed for the rest of the evening, and I felt good about myself for the rest of the night. I feel like I'll be posting a lot of stuff here since I've been working at Chick-fil-A for a while, so I just want to say, most nights you don't see a single Karen and the worst incident will be a messed up order. Chick-fil-A is an amazing job and I'm grateful to have it. So please don't translate these stories as me disliking my work, because overall, I love it. See, I love these stories that paint Chick-fil-A in a positive light because, you know what? Chick-fil-A is an amazing place, okay? They're so kind, and there's those things people say about them which are no longer true because they changed their ways and their donation habits. Chick-fil-A is the best of fast food places. I'm sorry, but that is a fact. And this OP is a cool dude. He's a cool dude. This story's called Entitled Stepmom Uses Doorbell to Page Her Children. This is a story about my entitled stepmom and my brothers. While my mom was involved, she was a minor player. This also took place before cell phones. Here's the cast. There's me, 15 years old at the time. Tigger, middle bro, 13 years old.
Rabbit,
Youngest bro, 9 years old.
Mom,
Married to entitled stepmom and biological parent. The nicknames came from our mom, and according to her, our personalities matched the Winnie the Pooh characters. Mom calls me Eeyore. We live in what's known as a 3-family house. Entitled stepmom and mom owned the house, and we used the first and second floors, but rented out the third. For those that are not aware, a 3-family house is a freestanding house with 3 separate apartments, usually 1 per floor, connected by a main hallway. The first floor was used as a living room, kitchen, dining room, and home offices, while the second floor is where the bedrooms and playrooms are. Since these are considered separate apartments, the doors to each apartment was pretty thick. and it was hard to hear through the door. Also, because cell phones were not a thing yet, if you wanted to get a hold of a child that was on the second floor, you had to yell pretty loudly in the hallway up the stairs. Sometimes my poor entitled stepmom had to actually climb the stairs to get a hold of someone. Sarcasm. Eventually, my entitled stepmother decides that enough is enough and that she is going to install a doorbell on the second floor and put the button on the first floor. That way, if she needs one of us, she can just hit the button. So she goes out, purchases, and installs it. She sits us down and tells us about the bell and what it means when it rings. Also, she assigns each of us a number of rings. Rabbit is 1, Tigger is 2, while I am 3. When the doorbell is rung, we are to pause whatever we are doing, go downstairs, and walk into the living room and ask, "What's up?" We couldn't walk downstairs and ask from the doorway. We had to physically walk into the living room several steps so she could see us from her spot on the couch. That's right, my entitled stepmother installed the doorbell in a spot she could reach without getting off the couch. Now, sometimes we were paged for normal things, like checking our homework or to do the dishes. Other times we were called for dumb things, like filling her wine glass with the boxed wine or getting her a glass of water. Oh, and the water had to be cold, no ice, but you had to let the faucet run for 30 seconds. The problems had started to occur, because as I said, she had installed the button for the doorbell in easy reach of her position on the couch. In fact, she installed it on the side of the coffee table where her knees were, which led to several accidental activations, and Rabbit would run downstairs to see what's going on. He would walk into the living room and ask what's up. Entitled stepmother would be confused since she couldn't hear the doorbell upstairs, and there was no way she accidentally hit the button, since that was impossible. After a month of Rabbit appearing after being accidentally beckoned, he started yelling at entitled stepmother, which would almost always end up with Rabbit losing electronics for the day. This became such a common occurrence that Mom finally stood up to entitled stepmother and asked for the doorbell to be changed to 2 rings for Rabbit, 3 for Tigger, and 4 for me. Unfortunately, entitled stepmother was stuck in her ways and didn't see this as a problem for her to solve. It was our job to know if it was accidental or not, which, again, Rabbit would only know if he went downstairs. Then my mom was asked to switch it, so that I was 1, Tigger was 2, and Rabbit was 3. Her reasoning was that I was more level-headed and would be more forgiving of an accidental ring. Entitled stepmom said that was too confusing for us, and she decided to keep the order the same. I guess for some reason she thought a 9-year-old and 15-year-old couldn't understand the difference between 1 and 3. But we were required to get high marks in math. Anyways, eventually, you get sick and tired of hearing the doorbell, even when it wasn't calling you. I replaced the battery in both the button and the ringer several times with dead batteries. Eventually, I ran out of spare dead batteries. One day, I was playing video games in the playroom while Tigger was reading a book in his room, which due to the orientation of the house, I could see him where he was laying down. Suddenly, the bell goes off, twice. Tigger proceeds to continue to read his book. 2 more rings and a frustrated sigh from Tigger. Another minute passes with 2 more bell rings. After the third group, Tigger throws his book across his room, stands up, and grabs a metal baseball bat. Wordlessly, he walked out of his room and whacked that damned bell off the wall. While it was dying on the floor, he proceeded to hit it 2 more times to make sure it was dead. He gently put the bat back in his room and picked up his book from the floor. After witnessing this violent act, I hear my entitled stepmother storming up the stairs, so I quickly picked up my jaw from the floor. Entitled stepmother rips open the door and demands to know why Tigger was not responding to the doorbell. He stands up and very calmly states he didn't hear any bell. Entitled stepmother looks up at the wall where the former ringer was and then followed the wall down to the floor, where the doorbell lay demolished. Entitled mother starts to get herself into a tizzy, wondering what happened to the doorbell, and I reply without pausing my game, "Must have fallen." To this day, I have no idea where I got the bravery to lie straight to her face. While I misbehaved for talking back, ignoring her, or even being evasive, being sneaky, I did not lie. Entitled stepmother, while self-absorbed, prided herself on me always telling the truth, so she couldn't call me a liar without hurting her own pride. She decides that it must have fallen and smashed itself into 1,000 pieces. She moves on, tells Tigger he needs to go downstairs and find the TV remote for her. Mom looked at the remains later and she knew it had not fallen. Luckily for us, entitled stepmother decided the doorbell was inefficient and decided all by herself that an intercom would have been better. Turns out, she had gotten the idea from a magazine that I just happened to leave on the coffee table, open to an advertisement for an intercom. Oh well. Oh my gosh, that stepmother really enjoyed being a mother for that reason. I know a lot of people who say the best thing about having kids is like, you get to make them do all the slave labor, like taking out the trash, or hey, give me a glass of water, or something like that. And I see that entitled stepmother here is a firm believer in that. I don't know. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.